I have heard things that are just appalling.
Let's hear one.
One, the one that's been around forever, I still hear today, is you charter school people thought you could do it for less, so do it for less. Educate for less.
So even though charter schools have been around for a long time in Colorado, I'm always amazed how confused people are about this. So Terry Corey Lewis, thank you. You're the head of an organization called the Charter School Institute, also known as CSI.
Correct.
Now this institute, by the way, it's not just a little private organization, it is a creature of law.
Yes.
Great. All right. I want to get into that.
Okay.
But let me just do a couple of the basic things, because people hear charter school and in their mind they think it's a private school, not knowing that every charter school in Colorado is still a government public school, correct?
Correct. Tuition-free public school that has more flexibility to be innovative, but is held accountable through student performance.
It works kind of like this. Group of parents go, this is not working for me. We need a school that focuses in on this, or does it that, or is better for students like my kid. Let's build our own school. They put together a proposal, they bring it to the school district goes aces, and before you know it, you get a charter school that doesn't have to have the same either union requirements or rules or this and that, but you still get those awful tests every year and still get listed to see how you're doing. You still can discriminate against whatever.
Open to all students.
So handicapped students,
yes.
Kids of color, different religions, whatever
yes.
it is. You even let Italians in.
Most schools.
But that's only because of law. I understand that. So let me ask you, how many charter schools are there in Colorado?
265.
That's a lot.
Yes.
So we have 178 school districts.
Correct.
So there's on average 2 per district-ish, 1.5 per district-ish.
45 districts authorize charter schools.
45 districts authorize them, which means they get to
they oversee
exist.
Some charter schools. We are in many districts that have their own schools that they authorize, and then we have our schools that we authorize in that same district.
All right, so you use this term authorize.
Right.
And now we're going to start falling down the rabbit hole of the education bureaucracy, which when you get into it, it's bizarre. But then you understand that some students are more equal than other students when it comes to funding, particularly in some charter schools. I want to make sure we get to that, but I want to make sure I'm on the right page. Why is there this pushback against charters? I know that the Colorado Education Association doesn't like charters. I know our progressive legislature does not like charters. I know that there are all these rumors that, well, even if it's government, it's still being privatized because it's being corporatized when we have a charter school. Any of that true? Why? What's the beef?
Yeah, it's unfortunate that we still can fight this fight about charter schools. The first 2 charter schools came to Colorado or were authorized in 1993, and we're still having this argument that a charter school is just a school that has a contract with a district or the Charter School Institute to provide an educational program that is unique and innovative. And what we want for our schools and all our students is that they have options. I don't know about you, but I have quite a few children. Different learning styles, different needs. They excel in different kinds of schools with different programming. And I, as a parent, wanted to find those choices. And every community should have those choices.
How do charter schools rank? Let's talk first about grades. On average, how do they do compared?
They perform, and they perform well. They perform, in most cases, better than their district counterparts. I should mention, though, the thing that makes them different is you can close a charter school pretty easily. And we do close schools.
If they're not performing.
If they're not performing.
But let me ask you this. Sometimes it's not about grades.
True.
If I've got a kid who's being bullied and scared to go to school and having an awful time, but when she goes to a charter school, she feels safer or has a different social experience that gives her more well-being, but her grade is slightly less. Great, let's do that. Or I have a son who has Down syndrome. His test scores, well, they're 0. So it's not going to matter. So not everybody chooses to go to a charter school just for the academics.
Correct. Yeah. It's really about a community. That individual school is creating a community, a school culture that's warm and welcoming and safe for students.
What is the threat to the other schools? Because the teachers union doesn't like them.
No.
The legislature doesn't like them. The lies keep going out after them. Why are they so angry about this bit of public school choice?
I think the simple answer is that charter schools are really focused on the student, not the systems. So it's not about the system. We are not here to support, that it's taking care of the adults. The adults, obviously, we need to make sure we have high quality, high capacity teachers in our buildings, but it's about meeting the needs of students. And when you saw when we went through the pandemic and we saw enrollment increase in charter schools across the state and the country,
Yep.
It's because charter schools were responsive to the community that they served. And that was our expectation. What does your
Because
community
they have more flexibility. They're not bound by the union contract. They have teachers who might have been trained in a very different way, who do things differently. It's a laboratory to try new things.
Correct.
All right. Let's get back to that word, authorize.
Yeah.
All right. So a school district can authorize my idea for the John Caldera Charter School, where we specialize in teaching how to drink without getting a hangover, or something like that. and they can either say, yes, that's great, in which case we get funded, right? And what do we get funded? Do we get funded the same as any other school district in that district?
For the most part, you do. You'll get the same PPR, per pupil revenue. You now have access, due to House Bill 1375, passed in 2017, you now have access to local funding, so mill levy overrides. So your students in your school will receive the same amount of mill levy override dollars as their district counterparts.
Let me kick that back to you, make sure I got it. So I open up my school, and whatever the operating ratio is, $6,000, $7,000, whatever it is in my district,
Right.
my kids in this school, they come with that amount of money attached. If there is an override for capital or whatever, then my school gets a bit of that too.
That's correct.
But that's when the school district authorizes it. The school district says, no, we're not authorizing that. What do I do?
If you can apply to the Charter School Institute, and that is the key, can you apply? Because the district needs to release you and say, you can now apply. Without that release, you can't become a school at CSI.
As I understand it, if my school district doesn't let me open it, they can wave a wand and say, but maybe those poor schmucks over at the Charter School Institute will authorize you. But it's still up to them. I can't just go to you. They have to say, we don't want you, maybe they want you.
In the majority of cases.
Are they required to say, if they say no, are they required to give you a shot at it?
No. And so what is key is exclusive chartering authority. Most districts have it. It's something that they hold dearly. And so 172 districts have exclusive chartering authority out of 178. And what that says is they have first right of refusal. In those other districts, you can go directly to CSI. So if I am in a district and I don't have ECA or exclusive chartering authority, and an applicant comes to me, they can just say, I don't even need to go to a geographic district, I'm going to go straight to CSI. They'll just inform me that that's where I'm going.
So they have a safety valve. In those districts, they have a safety valve. I'm thinking, for instance, my school district, Boulder Valley School District, Ascent Classical Academy wanted to open up another charter school. They've got a successful one in Golden View Classical. They've got 500 kids on the waiting list, same thing with the one they have in Douglas County. And there are kids whose parents drive them all the way down to Golden to take that. And they wanted to open up one in Boulder. The demand is overwhelming there, absolutely overwhelming. But Boulder Valley School District, being the remarkably tolerant, diverse, celebrating our differences, gave them a thumbs down. They didn't give you the opportunity to do that, to pick it up instead.
They were not released to Colorado Charter School Institute. They were never released to us.
What a ridiculously awful thing. Now, they can then appeal, can't they?
They did appeal to the State Board of Education.
And the state board,
upheld the district's position.
Right. And so the state board said, sorry. And was it partisan? I mean, it seemed like there are, the state school board is elected. It is a partisan state school board. There are more Democrats than Republicans on that board, and they said no.
They did.
So for the 500 to 1,000 or so students in Boulder Valley who wanted this classical education experience that we see elsewhere in the state, and if Boulder wanted to, they could say, go talk to Terry.
Yeah.
Maybe she'll do it.
Right. We do authorize Ascent in Douglas County. We do authorize Ascent in northern Colorado, in Windsor, and we do authorize Golden View. We do authorize those 3 schools.
All right. Now I want to talk about money.
Okay.
First of all, the system is just so awful to charter schools. And you're not hurting me. You're not hurting the teachers. You're hurting these kids. These kids could thrive in a better thing. Choice is good, and it's not a private choice. It's not a voucher. It's another public school that does things differently. And what I love is looking at school districts' websites and seeing the lovey-dovey soft mission statement that it's inclusive of every child and puts the children first, which is crap. It's a lie. It's a lie.
Yeah.
All right. Talk to me about the money.
Right.
So let's do it this way. Let's say, I asked you this before off camera, but why wouldn't, if the State Board of Education brings it back and says you have to authorize it, they can still throw it to you to authorize. Is that correct?
Not the State Board, but
not the State Board.
The district could.
So the State Board doesn't authorize, but they can say, no, school board, we command you to authorize this, or give it to the Charter School Institute.
They don't have the or.
Oh, really?
Isn't that interesting?
But the school board can.
The district has to do it, but the State Board cannot force a district to release to us.
Why would I don't understand why a school district would release that authority to you for this school. I would think they would want more control over any school in their geographic area.
It's a really good question. So we have formed partnerships with geographic districts, and there are many reasons why it's to their advantage to have a school come to us. Sometimes it's finance. It is actually, it's going to save them some money by having us authorize the school. It's also sometimes in the rural districts where we have quite a few schools, they just don't have the capacity. The superintendents, the bus driver, the cook, the principal, and the idea of what to do with a charter, it is just beyond them.
In other words, we're a small school district.
Right.
My plate's full.
Right.
Thank you for coming and taking care of this.
Exactly. Another option is we have schools that are unique. So there are unique models that are a bit more complicated. We have a school that's serving pregnant and parenting teens. That's a unique model. We have a school down on the Mountain Ute Reservation, Kewagat Community Academy, that took a lot of learning. It's the first charter school on a reservation in Colorado. So understanding the interface between state law, federal law, tribal law, you know.
Wow.
So it might have been a little too complicated for
the school district.
Yeah.
But why, he wonders, why would a school board still push it this way? Listen, most metro areas, most larger school boards are controlling. They don't want to let kids go off and do their own thing or have parents have control. They want the control. Why would they give it to you to authorize and then oversee that school?
Well, some want more control than others, and some, again, we see that sometimes it's just a financial issue. It's to their best, in their best financial.
That's what I want to focus in on. How can it be to their financial interest? So I've got the school, and the state board, let's say, says, yes, you have to authorize it. And the school board goes, no, we're going to let them do it. Is there a difference in funding?
There is.
Explain that.
So in our state, funding comes from your per pupil revenue, but then also there's local dollars. And those local dollars that a district can raise, called mill levy overrides, can be pretty significant depending on the district. So we have some districts in this state that have raised quite a bit of additional funding that will go to each of their students. Our students do not have access to that.
That is insane. So let me see if I got this right. So well-to-do district, I'm thinking Cherry Creek, Boulder, where mill levy overrides happen all the time. So yes, you get the state per pupil ratio. Here it is. Here's your $6,000 or $7,000.
Right.
But also the local school district, because of the generosity of their taxpayers, they say, yes, tax us more on our homes, and they get all this other money. So if there are two charters, let's take Boulder, for example, or Cherry Creek, and one is authorized by the school district, and right next door is the one authorized by you, this one gets a lot more money than this one, even though they are right next to each other. And this is allowed.
Yes.
How is this discrimination legal?
Well, in House Bill 1375, there is a provision that the state can provide funding to equalize that so that students would be on par with their districts. And we do have a fund. It's called Mill Levy Override Equalization for Charter School Institute schools. To get to that full funding, we're looking at about $42 million in that bucket right now. We're at about $17 million right now. So that's about $800 per student.
So I want to follow you.
Okay.
So right now, there is a bucket out there.
There is.
That says this is to equalize. So when I'm picking on Boulder Valley just because I live there, but when Boulder Valley doesn't authorize the school, but you do, to even it out, you can pull money out of the state fund, but it's not near enough.
Right. Let me give you an example.
I don't understand why our governor, who is giving money away to everything and giving away subsidies to buy Teslas and subsidies to buy electric ovens and everything else, you're telling me that this legislature that has been spending billions, that has never had more money than it's ever had, can't find an extra $25 million to fully fund these charter schools?
I mean, the governor is a former CSI school leader, so he has given money to that fund or provided money in that funding. But let me give you an example to make this real. Douglas County.
Yeah.
Douglas County has their own schools that they authorize.
Got it.
We have 2 schools in that district,
Okay.
Ascent, and we also have Colorado Early College.
Okay.
They're going for a mill levy override in November.
Douglas County School
Yes.
District.
They could include CSI schools in that language. So they're not required to, but they could. They're choosing not to. So currently, those 2 schools, our 2 schools, are receiving about $800 per student.
That has nothing to do with Douglas County. That's from this emergency relief fund, I'll call it, from the state.
Correct.
An equalization fund.
Correct. But
How is this not labeled hateful? How is this not labeled discrimination? So in other words, those kids who are going to the Ascent School are going to get considerably less money as it is. And if this mill levy override gets passed, they don't get a penny of it.
Right.
At the same time, our state government is giving money away in every way possible to every special interest I can imagine. Billions. I'm talking billions. I am talking billions. And they can't put $25 million to equalize this.
That's hard to believe.
I don't know how that is anything less than hateful.
Yeah. It's students. It's for the students. And it's both a local issue and it's a state issue. Durango included our schools in their bond and their mill levy, and our students have benefited from that. And they have been treated as if they are a Durango student, and they are.
Okay, until you and I had this conversation, I'm completely unaware of this discrimination. I know charter schools traditionally have been underfunded. I know that over the years, they didn't get the capital funding that the other schools did, and there's been some good movement over the years to change that. They didn't used to get full funding. They used to get a percentage funding, and that was a way to buy off the union so there would be more money over here. But to say that we're going to tax all of the people in a district with a mill levy override, but it's not going, animal farms. Some students are more equal than others. And so we're all going to get taxed for kids who are in government schools in our district.
Yes.
But not your kids.
Exactly.
And the same people who put words of diversity and tolerance on the walls of their schools are the ones running the campaigns to make sure that these kids don't get it.
Correct.
That is ugly.
And if you think about that parent, you're a parent, I'm a parent, and you find a school that's going to meet your child's needs, a public school, they have no idea that they're not going to receive the same amount of funding. They're paying taxes. They don't know that because they have no idea that this is a CSI school or a district charter school or a district-run school. That's not what matters to them. It's the school that matters. It's going to meet their needs, not who authorizes it.
Do you get any excuses, any explanations when you're dealing with this? Does the school board go, Terry, you're wonderful, glad you do what you do. I'm glad you're authorizing those schools that we don't want to be associated with. But
I've heard that.
But we don't like those kids. What possible excuse do they have?
I have heard things that are just appalling.
Let's hear one.
One, the one that's been around forever, I still hear today, is you charter school people thought you could do it for less, so do it for less. Educate for less. I'm just stunned that people would say such a thing.
Really what they're saying is, we want more. Mm-hmm. Because if you have a bond, if you have a mill levy override, and let's say 10% of the kids go into these charter schools, that means all that money gets to go over here where it gets to go to union-run schools. Why do I have the sense that the issue really is the school unions, which have a lot to do with who's on the board?
Well, in fairness, the district-authorized schools get them too. It goes back to your control issue. It's the district saying, our schools, our district-run schools, and yes, unionized schools, will get these dollars, and so will our district-authorized schools. But you are not part of that, students. You've chosen to go outside the system. I've heard that too, that these families are making decisions to go outside the system.
Like they're traitors or something. Like they are somehow the other. So how dare you try to do something unique? It amazes me because parents don't send their kid to the doctor that is closest to them. They send their kid to the doctor that best fits their kid's needs. And they weigh which doctor is better, and they talk to other parents. And because this is important, well, their education is not that much different. And so you talk to other parents, and you need to have choices. Here are some choices.
Right. I was a school principal of a CSI school, a Charter School Institute school, for many, many years. So I met with parents day in and day out. And I can tell you, they did not choose our school because we were authorized by the Charter School Institute. Never once.
I would imagine, do parents even know that?
No.
So I had no idea, for instance, that in Jefferson County, Golden View Classical Academy, which is just this amazingly successful, amazing kids, amazing job. I thought they were authorized by Jeffco.
They were, and they transferred to us.
Because?
It was a relationship that was struggling, and we provide more autonomy than many districts. And so the district finally said, you probably would be better served applying to go to CSI.
How many schools do you oversee?
43.
43. So you've authorized 43.
About over 20,000 students throughout the state.
Okay. And when you authorize them, is it something like, I authorize them and then it's done?
We by statute are required to be a model authorizer, so we have high standards
What is a model authorizer?
that we are going to uphold our schools to the highest standards, and we're going to and hold ourselves to that. So not just hold our schools accountable, but hold ourselves to that.
Have you ever yanked the authority away from a charter school?
We have
For what kind of reason?
mismanagement, financial mismanagement, unsafe environment, things like that. That's the only reason why we would get that deep into a school.
What about if the grades were lousy?
Then you would ultimately end up closing that school. But if you were to take immediate action, it has to be the health and safety of the students, or it's going to financially fall apart. We don't save our schools financially. If they don't make it on their own, then they don't stay open.
So in other words, since they get less money to begin with, and you can't add a whole lot of money to that, it's not like you're there to bail them out.
Right.
They sink or swim,
Right.
while the other school has all the money.
So think about this. What a superintendent might tell you is resource allocation. Resource allocation. We're going to take our resources and we may need to give more money to this school and less money to this school and more money to this school. Our schools don't do that. They get what they get and they have to make it financially viable. And we have schools that last year, our Mountain Ute School had 25 students. So how do we make a small school work as well as a school in Federal Heights that's 2,000?
Before we run out of time, if you could wave a magic wand to solve these problems, what would you do?
Financially, which is, I think, critically important and the fairest thing to do, is that our students would be receiving the same funding that their district counterparts are receiving. Not more, not less.
Has anyone run a bill in the legislature to make that happen?
Well, we have the bill, we just don't have the money in the funding. So, we have the bucket, as I said. So it's there. We just need to put the $25 million in it, and then we'd be okay.
And let's just remember, these are the people who say they care about the kids. The money's there, they won't put it there.
Right.
They'll give it to guys with Teslas, but they won't give it to kids to get an education.
So we have the mechanism. We just need to make sure the money is there. That's the first thing we would do. The second thing I would do is to provide more opportunities for high-quality charter schools in communities, that you wouldn't have such constraints. We have districts that are chronically underperforming, that are failing, that have exclusive chartering authority. So a charter can't necessarily come directly to us. They have to go through a district that is dysfunctional, that's not serving their students well, that has been on the clock for a long time. And we just don't have the ability to have an applicant come directly to us.
And that would be better, even though it'd be a lot more work for you guys.
Right.
Where do you get your money? I'm not talking about the money you pay for the kids, because that comes through the state. But how many people work at CSI?
Around 30.
Okay. And if more schools open, you would need to have more people.
Right.
So there's operating expenses there.
Correct. So we withhold 3% of PPR that pays for our operating costs. So our per pupil revenue, we take 3%. We do give a rebate every year. So we try to operate as under 2.5% of that. And so we can then push more money out. And so this past year, our schools received $80 per student as a rebate because we are lean.
It's maddening. How insulting that they get $80 from you because you keep your expenses down, but the state won't fill it, and local school districts won't let the mill levy override fund it. Is hateful the right word? I keep using that. I'm thinking
insanity, injustice, unfair, yeah. And if every charter school parent in our portfolio, so we have 20,000 students, if we had 40,000 parents that could rise up and say, this is a problem, maybe someone would listen.
The legislature could fix it one of two ways. They could put more money into the bucket,
Yep.
or they could tell school districts that they have to share mill levy overrides.
Right, and there's a lot of disagreement. They do a lot of the finger pointing, right?
Oh, that's all right. It's just kids caught in the crossfire. Terry, people want to get more information about CSI and what you do. Where do they go?
Colorado Charter School Institute, go to our website. We have lots of information on there. Contact information, please reach out anytime. We have information on mill levy override equalization, this bucket we're talking
Right.
about to equalize funding. We have all kinds of information on our schools.
Thank you, because I didn't understand this subtlety. This subtlety is evil. I mean, it's this little nuance that, and I've been doing this for 3 decades, and I still didn't know it in this detail. So thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you for having me on and letting me share this story, because it's the story of our students.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's not the reason we have schools.
So, thank you so much.
You're welcome. If you enjoyed that conversation, by all means, click one of these other great programs. We have the best conversations with the most fascinating Coloradans. And subscribe to our channel. Just click down below and hit that little bell button too. You don't want to miss a single show.